Talmor, Shishin Magachi. Talmor is my home. My family have worked the land for generations. My gran says the island does not belong to us, but we belong to the island. And we must be ready, for a great evil is coming, and death follows with it.
Listen and subscribe to the latest season of Undertow, The Harrowing, a Storyglass production presented by Realm, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, I'm Alison Larkin, writer, comedian, narrator, and host of the Jane Austen podcast. Join me as we embark on a journey through Austen's timeless stories, starting with Pride and Prejudice. The Jane Austen podcast with Alison Larkin is available wherever you listen to podcasts.
In 2005, two brothers hit the road to chase demons and fight monsters.
Fighting a couple of angels, too.
And eventually save the world.
A bunch of times. Over 15 years, this series has built one of the most dedicated fan bases in all of entertainment, and that fan base is near and dear to our hearts.
That's right. I'm Rob Benedict. I played Chuck Shirley, a.k.a. God.
And you do a darn good job, too, buddy.
Aw, thanks.
Well, I'm Richard Spade Jr. I played Loki, the Trickster, and Gabriel, and I directed a bunch of episodes.
Wow, is that it?
Well, I directed you. I don't know. What do you think?
Though we worked on the show for years, we never sat down and watched the entire series.
But that was then, and this is now.
That's right. We are watching each episode and inviting the actors, the writers, producers, and crew to join us in digging into the story, the characters, and the mythology.
These guests share some fantastic behind-the-scenes stories with us. You're going to love those, and you're going to get our honest opinion about each and every episode. That's right. Those guests share some fantastic behind-the-scenes stories with us, and each episode gets a full, honest, and unfettered review from Rob and Rich. And you get to learn a little bit about how TV is made. Lord knows we have.
A warning, there are spoilers. And don't get frustrated that we haven't caught details for multiple viewings or that we know what happens 3 seasons from now. This is the first time we're watching these episodes. And you're there for the ride as we watch with our virgin eyes.
Oh, that's creepy. Thanks for joining us on our journey as we deepen our understanding about why you love this series so much.
Hey everybody, this is Rob Benedict.
And I am Richard Spate Jr.
We're talking about Season 5, Episode 15, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. And before we get into it, we want to just say thanks for listening to our show.
Yeah.
It's great to meet so many of you at the conventions and hear your feedback. We're always pleasantly surprised when we ask, how many of you know about this podcast? And at least 2 or 3 of you raise your hands, and that's...
Yeah, there's at least one hand in the audience. No, a lot of you listen, and you're spreading the good word, and we appreciate it.
We really do.
And, anything that you love about what we do, please come see me, come tell me. And if you have problems with anything we're doing or are frustrated by something or just downright angry, go see Rob. He's the guy for that.
Stay tuned to the end of the podcast. He'll give out my phone number, and then you can just let me know.
Exactly. Yeah, if you can't make the convention, go to his house. Face-to-face, I think, is more effective. No, but seriously, thank you for listening, and thank you for spreading the word, and keep spreading the word, because we love doing this podcast, and we love people knowing about it. So help us, help you, help us.
There you go. All right, well, let's get into Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid with a little bit of a thing that we call summary.
Summarize the show, Robert.
That was the first time we had a song to begin the summary.
Yep.
Okay, a zombie crawls out of a grave and kills a man watching an...
What's the zombie's name, and who's its daddy? He rich, is he rich like me? Has he taken... It's a song by the Zombies.
Oh, God. Like,
Anytime.
Who's your daddy?
To show you what
Wow, that was
you need to live.
A reach.
Tell me slowly, with me what really.
Okay, so...
it's the time of the season.
Boom, 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 boom. A zombie crawls out of a grave and kills a man who happens to be watching a nature documentary.
That made sense to me because nobody likes people who watch nature documentaries.
No, not at all. Sam and Dean head to Sioux Falls, South Dakota to investigate, which happens to be just 5 miles from Bobby's house.
Well, isn't that convenient?
I was thinking we've been to Sioux Falls before.
No, I think there's an episode where a woman named Sue takes a bad fall.
That's what it was.
You're confusing.
Sitting in a diner, the brothers interview a witness to the murder, Digger Wells. seems that Clay Thompson, who has been...
I love that Digger gives himself that nickname, and Dean's like, you can't give yourself a nickname, which is what we used to always say in high school. And somebody's like, well, I guess I'm the blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no,
you're not.
You can't call yourself something. We'll do that for you. Thank you very much.
Especially when it's like Superman.
Yeah.
I guess I'm going to be Strong Arm. No.
I'll tell you who didn't pick their own nickname. Guy I went to high school with, Horse Nuts. He did not pick that nickname.
No, I can't imagine he would.
Nope.
Hey, a real quick shout out to Horse Nuts.
Gotta be honest. If he's listening, he knows exactly who he is, and he earned it the old-fashioned way by having enormous nuts.
Oh, I thought it was going to be like standing behind a horse when he kicks or something.
No, sir.
It seems that Clay Thompson, who plays for the Golden Gate...
But I'm not naming names because the last thing I want to do is upset Horse Nuts.
Right.
The real Horse Nut.
It seems that Clay Thompson, who happens to play for the Golden Gate basketball team, the Golden Gate Golden Gators.
Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, there you go. Who has been dead for 5 years, returned to life and killed his murderer.
Murderer? Wait, he murdered his murderer?
The rememberer.
What if he murdered his murderer with a gathering of crows, which of course is called a murder of crows?
Murderer.
And what if he murdered the murder of crows afterwards with the dead body of the person he'd murdered? So the murderer murdered the murderer with the murdered.
That's all the time we have, everyone. Mills, played by the just young and beautiful Kim Rhodes.
Kim Rhodes.
She's still beautiful to this day, but it's always so
she's
fun
a piece
to see people when they're babies.
She's awesome.
And this is her first episode, and that was fun to see.
I love Kim Rhodes.
So Sheriff Mills, who will go on to be a very important character in this series.
Yeah, this is like the beginning of a long arc.
Yeah,
for her.
I mean, what a season this is. You're like, this is their first episode. I've never seen it before.
Yeah.
So Sheriff Mills arrives and is suspicious if Sam and Dean are actually FBI. So she calls their supposed supervisor, who's actually just Bobby posing as an FBI director. And Sheriff Mills instantly recognizes Bobby's voice. The jig is up. She tells them to knock off whatever they're planning. It's a good scene. I like this scene. It's a great scene. Digger Wells is funny. Kim is just nailing it. Bobby recognizes the voice. The boy's getting busted. It's a funny scene.
You don't think it's funny? Like, I thought it was interesting that the town's perception of Bobby was the town drunk.
Yeah, what is that? I don't even understand.
I guess he's the town drunk, but I mean,
we see him.
It made me laugh.
Do we see him
like that.
Yeah,
like,
totally. And like, he's like, well, Bobby's. No, it said I heard you're the town drunk. Who said that, Bobby?
I know. But also, they say his first and last name every time, which also made me laugh. Bobby Singer. Bobby Singer, he's the town drunk. Wait a minute. Wait, I heard that guy.
Digger Wells is the town
drunk. Who told you that? Bobby.
Singer. Yeah. I mean, we've seen him drink beers, but I've never seen him really smashed. Whatever. Anyway.
I guess we just, we've never gone out with Bobby off the clock.
No, that's true. We haven't.
You know?
Yeah. Sam and Dean head to Bobby's place. He tries to convince them to leave town and that Digger is the town drunk. The brothers end up finding Clay at home with his family. He is seemingly normal, and besides being extremely pale, and confesses to killing the victim, the man who killed him 5 years earlier.
Yeah, he's honest.
Yeah. Sheriff Mills, a.k.a. Kim Rhodes, arrives and arrests Sam and Dean and puts them all in jail.
Kind of like that old pirate slogan, dead men tell no tales. Because he's not telling any tales. He's being honest.
Right, exactly. So she arrests Sam and Dean, and she puts them in jail. Bobby, who is friendly with the sheriff, arrives and bails the brothers out. He tells them that for the past 5 days...
Well, I got to say, while we're commenting on this thing,
sure.
I thought it was a giant hole. It actually ends up getting explained a little later. But when she did not care that the dead guy was standing there, I'm like, okay, this bumps for me.
Well, yeah, but...
well, I figured it out. Later. Yeah, but at the time, I'm like,
yeah. Or even the fact
officer?
that she's like, is this Bobby Singer? And like, they seem to not be getting along. And then it turns out, they're actually friends. And Bobby says later, well, we've been friends for 5 days because they have this thing in common, right?
Exactly. So it's just, it's very interesting in how it unravels. It reveals itself.
I agree. In the time, I was like, wait, what? Okay, so he arrives, he bails them out, and then he tells them that for the past 5 days, the dead have been returning from their graves. The boys are upset until Bobby brings them home and discover that Bobby's wife, Karen, who was actually cremated, has returned from the dead and is acting like the perfect homemaker, baking pies out the wazoo. Even Sheriff Mills' son has come back from the grave.
Wow. Hold on.
Yeah.
I knew she was making a lot of pies. I guess that's the kind of thing you can't show on network. I had no idea she was making them out her wazoo.
That's what you can't show on network.
Yeah. I mean, you can show the result, like the pie, but clearly the process is a bit on the Randy side. Yikes.
The team realize they're dealing with the horseman Death, who's bringing the dead back to life in the town. Question, is this one of the 4 horsemen? I was confused about that. I didn't know.
I think it is, but we never saw this horse person.
I keep imagining that Julian is going to be.
I know it made me think Julian Richings, but I knew this wasn't that episode, right. So I don't know. I guess it's just.
And I watched a little bit of the beginning of the next episode because I know his episode begins with him walking down the street touching people.
Yeah.
And, it's not that. Well, we'll have to find out later if this is one of the four horsemen because nobody seems to know. Bobby gives Sam a list of other folks in the town who are undead. He goes to investigate. Dean stays back to make sure Karen doesn't turn on Bobby. Sam visits an old lady.
Well, I'm sure Bobby hopes Karen turns on Bobby. Clearly, Bobby's into that kind of thing.
That's what I'm talking about. She cooks, she cleans.
You got to wonder how Dean makes sure she doesn't turn on Bobby. He's like, hey, you got to wear something frumpy. Don't show any ankle. Not to Bobby. Not now. These are fragile times.
So Sam visits.
And hey, no running your fingers through his hair. So help me.
Sam visits an old lady, and that scene made me laugh. She's just sick as a dog. It's just
oh man, especially post COVID, it made it even grosser.
Honestly, post COVID, it's so horrible. Like you couldn't even show that. I don't think it's so disgusting.
Ugh.
She's coughing and she's spitting, and her hand just keeps going, get closer, get closer. I was like, is this one of those scenes they're doing to sort of poke fun at Sam? You know what I mean? Like because he's like,
yeah,
he gets so close to her.
Yeah, and he was great. He's like, you sure you couldn't just tell me from over here?
Exactly.
Like it's a good sequence.
It's a really funny. Really funny sequence.
Jared's really funny in it.
And then she jumps him and tries to eat his face.
Right.
Right next to him is her dead husband's corpse. So
interestingly, that's what most fans try to do to Jared in photo ops. Jump on him and eat his face.
Right, exactly. Right. In the same day, he goes and he rescues Sheriff Mills from her son who has turned and eaten his dad. So the zombies are going bad. Karen, meanwhile, did
you? Yeah. Maybe I'll save this for. I'm going to save something for fun facts, but you got to remind me that I saved something for fun facts. Okay.
Okay. Stand by for that, everybody. So Karen is with Bobby, and she's starting to turn. She feels hunger. In a touching moment, Karen reveals that she has a message for Bobby from Death. Then she tells Bobby he must kill her again. Remember? Because he killed her already. Remember? We saw that.
Yeah.
He killed her because she was possessed by a demon. He had to kill her.
Yeah, man.
So he has to kill her again. Sam has calmed Sheriff Mills down and convinces her he needs her help to save the townspeople.
Yeah, he does.
Bobby does what Karen asks.
Ow. Bummer.
Yeah. The three hunters now partnered with the sheriff and townspeople to fight an onslaught of zombies in Bobby's junkyard. And in what possibly is one of the most violent. This episode to me is one of the more violent episodes of Supernatural I feel like we've seen.
I tell you, there's a boatload of gore. Heads getting shot off.
A lot of gore. Heads getting shot off. Yeah, and just really and well done gore. Like it was really
Well done, Al Gore.
Well done, Al Gore.
Yeah.
The living prevail over the dead. And later, while the bodies of the zombies are being burned, Bobby tells the boys the message Karen gave him from Death. Since Bobby's one of the reasons Sam is saying no to Lucifer, Death targeted him, break his spirit, or to be killed.
Wow.
So, yeah, they really sent in quite a message. And we still don't know if this is one of the four horsemen. That's really driving me crazy, to be honest.
Well, I think they think it is, but I guess we'll find out. No horse hoof prints.
I know that we're getting all the four horsemen this season, and we've gotten two so far. So this would be the third. So I guess we could just use our math skills, and by the end of the season, we'll know.
I guess we can assume. Well, let's dive right into the next segment of the program, which is... Rob and Rich review.
Guys, Rich, what did you think?
Robert, I liked it. I don't think I loved it.
Okay.
I liked it. I mean, look, you got Kim Rhodes, you got Jim Beaver, you got a lot of cool
zombies.
Story with the dead mom coming back and all this stuff. I almost have the same complaint of last time, or not complaint. Put down your pen. Don't write an angry letter.
Note.
My same note, or just yes, go with note, is that it vacillates oddly between humor and drama to me. Like I felt like it goes for a couple of light moments and then goes for the, like you said, the most gruesome stuff we've seen. And I don't know. It could just be me. They just didn't dovetail seamlessly together. But good episode. Very good episode.
Yeah, I liked it. Was it one of my favorites of all time? No, but I liked it. I mean, I loved seeing Kim, who's so at home in that sheriff's outfit, and really,
yeah, she's great. Yeah. Great introduction of a great character.
Yeah, you can see why she's coming back, and it was a great episode for Beaver,
Jimmy the Bee Beaver.
I like zombie stuff. I find myself kind of liking zombie stuff.
I thought the guy who came back and was living in his house And he's like, I'm a taxpayer. That was funny. Like, it was
And there's really
legitimately
funny stuff. I mean,
humorous.
you're very right that there's a fine line, and Supernatural does a pretty good job of handling both those things. But when they're extreme, it is sometimes not sure what you're supposed to feel.
It's going to be tough to go from one to the other. It'd be tough to go from humor to I've got to now shoot a little boy in the forehead. You know what I mean? Like it was just, I don't know, man. I thought tonally it was just a little not laser-like focused like a lot of the episodes are. Even when they split the two, they usually are like nail one, nail the other. This kind of like did really well with one and really well with the other, but neither one of them were home runs, so it didn't make a home run episode. But it was very good. Like there was one thing stylistically that I wanted to point out that was strange to me.
Okay.
It's the director's choice. But at one point in one of those sequences, I think it's where Jensen and Jim are in the tiny closet and the zombies pick the lock and open the door. Suddenly Jim and Bobby are
He's like, oh,
Dean and Bobby
they're
are
dumb.
facing
They're not going to know
40 or 20 zombies
hiding in a closet.
I had a hard time with the fact that Dean, with the butt of a gun, held them at bay as long as he did before Jared started firing. Okay. That kind of had a horror movie leap to me that Supernatural usually doesn't make. They usually try to follow a fight logic that you're like, all right, they're up against this many people. We're going to have to do this many. We have to do this kind of defense system. Anyway, I don't know if what I'm saying makes any sense. It just felt like a big leap there to have them be able to hold those zombies at bay as long as they did before Sam started firing.
Right.
And then there's a weird thing. The camera is basically where the closet is, and it's looking back at the zombies as Jared is shooting them. They did a splatter of blood, like a digital splatter of blood.
On the lens.
On the lens, that made no sense, and it pulled me out immediately.
Why?
I'm like, what's it hitting? Like, they're not on a window. They're not. There's nothing between. So now the camera's part of the story,
right?
And we didn't cut back and see Dean wiping blood off his face like it hit him in the face. It just seemed like this weird.
Hey, we could do this. This could look cool, but
I thought it actually
took you out of it.
Yeah, it made it seem like a B horror flick. That sequence felt like a B horror movie to me, as opposed to Supernatural's usual.
Well, maybe that was on purpose.
Piercingly good violence and
Well, harsh notes for John Showalter from Roger Ebert here.
Well, I mean, John, but it might not have even been a John decision.
No,
it might have been a visual effect.
Yeah, because I have to say, visual effects for the episode. Sometimes I feel like visual effects for the early episodes, you go, oh, they've gotten better since then. But visual effects were pretty good in this, like heads getting shot off and blood splattering and all that was pretty good in this episode. Maybe they were just like on fire and they're like, hey, we could do this, and they didn't think it through. But I hear you. From a director's standpoint, that makes sense. I'm not going to argue that. That does make sense. I was like,
obviously somebody made a decision. They liked it at the time. It just struck me as strange.
Yeah, I was like, for me, it was okay. I was like, oh, that's wow, they did that. I was definitely aware that, oh, that's an effect. That didn't really happen,
Right, but then doesn't that mean right there that it didn't work?
Totally.
Totally. If you thought about it consciously and you're like, oh, totally. It hit blood hit an invisible piece of plexiglass for no reason. Struck me as strange.
The only part that bumped for me, story-wise, was at the end, the message that Death had for Bobby, it just wasn't a strong enough reveal for me. I wanted it to be kind of a bigger thing. You know what I mean?
I totally know what you mean. Yeah. It seemed weak that, like, trying to go after Bobby. So you go after the whole town? I didn't. Well, and also just like Death has a message. I was like, we're going to find out what it is. And why are all the zombies coming for Bobby at Bobby's house? And he was like, I think I know why. Like, why? And it's like, they had a message for Jared. They had a message for Sam. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't, I was hoping it was kind of bigger because there've been some big reveals about Sam and Dean, being more than human. And I don't know, this is just sort of like, it felt more like a gangster movie. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Just like going to want to kill him by association.
Tell him he'll sleep with the fishes.
Yeah. But I don't know. All in all, I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. 'Cause honestly, if for no other reason, we got another Jim Beaver episode, which is always good.
A really good Jim Beaver episode.
Good Jim Beaver episode. I thought the actress who played his wife was great, and that was really sweet. There's some really sweet moments there. And I think, again, bringing on Kim Rhodes, who we obviously have the benefit of knowing that she's going to continue. But even if we didn't know that, she's just great in the episode. She seems she manhandles the boys well and control, takes over any scene she's in. She takes over the scene. I think it's great. She does a great job.
Yeah. So where does this leave us on the beard?
Well, this is going to strike you as weird.
Yeah.
Because I thought about this in advance. And I know you're like, what?
Great.
Rich thought about this in advance. but I did. I thought about this in advance. I'm going with episode 515, Bobby Singer beard.
This episode, his beard in this episode.
Very meta rating, I know. I'm going with this very episode's Bobby Singer beard.
Okay.
Yeah. The Jim Beaver from 515. Which, by the way, if you look at the beard, it's a good beard. Like Jim's got like, solid coloring, very full. It's not scruff. It's a beard. It's trimmed because obviously his wife's there, so he's cleaned himself up a little bit. So it's one of Bobby's strongest beards probably ever because he's doing it for his wife. So it's a solid beard. It's a solid beard. It ain't no Stapleton.
Okay.
It ain't no Eddie Rabbit, but it's not a Kenny Rogers. But it's a Bobby Singer, and it should be damn proud that it is.
That's good. Jeez. Okay. I'll give it the Lebowski.
Whoa.
Again,
that's a higher rating than I would have thought you would have given this one. Okay. I'll take that.
Again, it's not my top rating, but it's a good beard. It's a solid beard. It's a fun beard.
That's a lot of beard on Lebowski, so that's not nothing.
It's not well groomed. It's it's unkempt, but it's Lebowski. It's Kim Rhodes. It's Jim Beaver doing top-notch Beaver work.
Yeah, you did.
We got some zombie action.
You did. You gave it a good review, bud. That's a 515 is walking away feeling pretty good about itself based on this review.
It should.
You know what I mean? It knows we're not flying it to Hollywood for the finals, but it did really well.
Exactly. It's not going to probably come in at one of our top 3 episodes of the season, but it's definitely top 10. And the other thing is it's such a good season. Like good things, like I've said before, like all corners of the production are operating on all cylinders. Like casting is killing it. You know what I mean? Writing is killing it. Directing, you're trying. The one thing I'll give props out to Showalter in the camera department is there was a really cool shot in the junkyard where the camera comes up on Dean and then turns and the wife is there. You know what I'm talking about, Richard?
Say it again.
There was a scene where Jensen's outside leaning against Baby, looking at this house.
Yeah.
And he's kind of leaning, and then the camera kind of swoops up on him and does this turn, and Beaver's wife is there.
That was an awesome shot.
That was really cool.
That was Showalter at his finest. That was definitely well-crafted shot. By the way, that really had me on the heels.
Yeah.
Didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
Really cool.
The other beard I could have given it is one of the characters from Walking Dead, because it was very Walking Dead this episode.
Well, are you now doing a beard switch up? This is really weird.
Nope.
We've never done this before. Robbie changing the beard.
No, I'm just giving an honorable mention, second choice beard.
Okay, we can take away that song. We don't need that song.
Okay. All right, well, let's get into our interview. It's time for the interview.
The interview.
And the interview, I want to just preface, we're going to have Kim Rhodes on at one of her future episodes. Can't wait to talk to her. For this episode, we've got the one and only Leave It to Beaver, Jim Beaver, who you can currently see in the season 4 of The Boys and also Outer Range and many, many, many other things.
Gosh darn it, if you miss Jim Beaver, just turn on your TV because he's on there somewhere.
And here's our conversation with Jim. All right, we've got Jim Beaver back with us. Hey, Jim.
Hey.
What a great episode this is for you.
Yeah, this is a particularly special one in more ways than one, some of which you guys don't necessarily know about.
Well, let us know what you mean.
Yeah, what do you mean?
You may know that. I don't know. There's a couple of aspects of it. I didn't realize we were going to jump right into it, but...
Well, you had lost your wife?
I had lost my wife. We shot this in... Let me see, this is season 5, so that's 2010, 11?
9, 10, I think, 2010.
Something like that. So this was several years later, but it was one of a couple of experiences I've had where people said, oh, I can't believe they're making you do this.
Yeah.
And it's one of those experiences that I have always responded by saying, you don't understand the gift this was, the ability to take a horrible personal experience and try and turn it into something resembling art and something that means something. And the knowledge that, fortunately or unfortunately, I bring something to this scene or this material that not many other actors are going to bring to it.
Right.
So it's, there was some tough stuff
Oh, God, I can't imagine.
At the same time, as I said, this was probably 5-6 years after my wife Cecily's passing. And while it was still a fairly fresh wound, it was a lot of time had passed and a lot of things there was a lot of water under the bridge since that event. And what I haven't ever really talked about is that for, I think, the first time ever, I fell in love with my co-star.
Oh.
This was the first time I had worked with Carrie Ann Fleming, who plays Bobby's wife, Karen. And first day, I was head over heels.
Wow.
And I've never really talked about that.
Was she aware of this?
Aware and reciprocating.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And I talked to her the other day, and she's cool with me talking about this.
Wow. So did you have a relationship post episode?
Well, yes and no. I mean, we're still very, very close, but it's interesting. We both have daughters, and we both have daughters named Madeline Rose.
No way.
Wow.
No way. Yes.
Wow. Wow.
But she and her daughter are Canadian, and I and my daughter are not. And there was a stretch there where, I don't know, if we had lived in the same country, something might have happened, but neither of us was in a position to move or take a child to another country.
Right.
So I may be getting in too deep into personal details, but the fact is we have a really wonderful relationship that stems from that episode, and we remained enormously close. And
that's amazing.
And I think I mean, we both love each other very much, but our lives went other ways. So
what an amazing thing, though.
Wow.
That this episode, it meant so much to you because of your personal experience, and then the woman cast to play your wife. You have this. Obviously, it was so much more.
Yeah, it was this huge, almost instant connection.
Wow.
It doesn't hurt that she's freaking gorgeous.
No, that didn't hurt. Never hurts.
And she was, I may be getting ahead of our conversation here, but the experience on that show, it was immensely helped by how I was already feeling about Carrie by the time we were shooting some of the more intimate scenes in the episode.
Right.
It was immensely helped. But I have talked about this part in regard to this episode, sometimes in conventions and things. When you're shooting a scene, particularly of deep emotion or deep sadness or deep anxiety, you know how it is on the set. You go for hours and hours shooting and reshooting and new angles. And you can find yourself on a day like I did, keeping yourself balanced on the edge of tears for 9, 10, 11 hours.
Yeah.
And your body doesn't know it isn't real. And what I remember most, well, no, not what I remember most, but what I remember most prominently from an actor standpoint is how when I got home back to whatever joint they had stuck me in, when I got back home that night, I fell on a bed and cried for like half an hour.
I bet.
Not because I was still feeling the emotions of the scene per se, but because my body needed to let go.
Yeah.
When you're sitting there as an actor trying to recreate the feeling of being devastated and you just sit in it for hours, it takes a toll on the psyche and the torso.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point that maybe people who are not
absolutely
in the performing arts would know, in that the time that you talk about, meaning those scenes are 2 minutes on screen, but they're 8 hours in execution. And you're going to deliver a performance when the camera's aimed at you, but you're also going to deliver that performance when the camera's not aimed at you, so that your partner can then act and have a partner who's giving as good as they get, so you can deliver a great scene. And that you have to hover in that space. It's not a light switch. You don't just turn it on, turn it off.
Hover is exactly the word. And you've got to stay there between takes, because otherwise you lose what you've built up.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, I'm not the kind of actor who stays, quote unquote, in character between shots. and there was plenty of fun between takes and everything. But there's a residual thing that's still going on. Going, okay, I can't lose what I've got here. I can't lose what I'm working on.
Yeah. Okay, guys, hold on. We're coming right back.
Hi, I'm Alexis Ohanian. You may know me as one of the co-founders of Reddit, but more recently, a large part of my identity is being a father to my 2 wonderful daughters. In my podcast, Business Dad, I'm hoping to open up the conversation about balancing careers and family. The one thing I constantly hear successful people say, without fail, is that they wish they'd spent more time with their kids. That's time no one can get back. So I decided to create Business Dad, to engage in the conversation about how we're spending our time now, providing a forum for successful dads to share their joys and challenges of being a working parent. You'll get to hear from a wide range of business dads, from Rainn Wilson and Guy Raz to Todd Carmichael and Shane Battier. And while this podcast will talk about business and will definitely be featuring dads, I think everyone can learn something from these incredible conversations as we unpack the expectations we all have about careers, relationships, and ourselves. Business Dad is available now, so be sure to listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. And now back to the episode. Jim, do you know the story as to why the role of Karen was recast with Carrie?
Yeah.
A different actress, Elizabeth Marlowe, originally played her in the flashback.
I have vague recollections. I think, now I could be wrong about this. It's been a while, but I think possibly the initial actress was pregnant at the time.
Oh,
I could be conflating this with something else. And
That'll do it.
We already had one kid in that episode eating his father.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, also would have been weird if your wife comes back and she's pregnant. Like,
Yeah, how long has she been back?
Where have you been exactly?
Bobby Singer.
Yeah. But, lucky me and lucky the fans, because I think,
yeah.
the lovely young lady who played Karen very briefly the first time around, she wasn't given a whole lot of opportunity to perform. It was fairly brief.
Yeah, no, it was a small bit. Yeah.
Even then, as I recall, a lot of it was stunt work with doing some of the work. Again, not to diminish anything Elizabeth did, but I think we were very lucky to be able to get Carrie. I did 2 episodes with her as Karen. Because she's back in Death's Door in season 7.
Oh, okay.
I thought she brought an awful lot to the character, and obviously I related to it. So yeah, that was probably my favorite episode that wasn't entirely Bobby centric. And I've often told people this,
right,
that especially when people who go, oh yeah, it's some kind of spooky show, right? Yeah. I say, you don't understand. I came to Supernatural from Deadwood, and nevertheless, some of the most dramatic scenes I've ever had in my career were on Supernatural. And some of the most moving and powerful sequences I've been given the chance to act were on Supernatural. So, and this was absolutely the height of that.
Yeah. And we get to see a different aspect of Bobby Singer in this episode too, which I think is cool. Not many characters on this show get to expand and show as many dimensions, and because you were able to do so many episodes, we get to see that. But this is a whole new side of Bobby we get to see.
And Rob's right. Luckily, because the show continues on so long, we get to see more of Bobby. But certainly, obviously, when your legs are injured and you become that guy, that version of Bobby, we see a certain internal anger and struggle. But this is a very deep revelation we're seeing about his life, and then what he has to do to make the choice he has to make. I mean, it's brutal. It's not normal TV. It's not what you get to do every day in episodic television.
And all of it in a wheelchair, by the way, which is
the wheelchair was interesting. I mean, it was great. I got to sit down most of the time, which at my age is always a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, you're saying at your age,
Is it
you weren't
frustrating?
at your age when you were making this. We were going back 20 years, man. Like you were what, 32? I mean, like it was a long time ago.
32 10 years ago. Yeah. Let's leave that sit
He was
there.
definitely 32.
Hey, they don't bring me here for my math. You know what I mean? That's not why I'm here.
I was always very careful on that show to remain aware that a lot of people watching the show can't get up out of the wheelchair and walk to the craft service table. That it needed to be something I played with enormous respect for people who live that every day.
Yep.
100%.
I had very mixed feelings about the whole wheelchair season because on one hand, it gave me something new to play. It brought a new dynamic into the character, started the spinner going in the opposite direction for a little while and mixed things up a bit. But it also meant that I spent a lot of time as Bobby sitting at home answering the phone. And,
Right.
it wasn't as active a role overall in the season.
Although there's some great action in this episode.
Oh yeah,
for you.
yeah. That was one of the other things I loved about this episode was I got a gunfight even though I was still in the chair. So
Yeah, you did, man. You made out well.
Yeah, great moment where you toss the shotgun to Dean and Dean knocks out some zombies. And another big thing about this episode is, of course, it's the introduction of Sheriff Mills, aka Kim Rhodes. So it's her first episode as well.
I was trying to remember whether her first one was this one or Weekend at Bobby's because I get them kind of conflated sometimes. But yeah, you're right, because this is where, at least for a few minutes, she still has a family. And I got to say this for Sheriff Mills. Boy, she sure got over that loss. She, it's apparently easier in television, but I don't recall there being much mention of her kid eating her husband in subsequent.
No, we never revisit that, really, do we?
They don't seem to be bummed out by the loss of that dude.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder. Yeah.
But
Maybe things weren't okay in that relationship.
Oh, yeah.
But you and her always work really well together. I mean, I've just seen you paired together a lot at conventions and stuff, and you're a good team.
Kim is absolutely terrific as a person and as an actress, and she's got exactly the right level of feistiness that is such a great counterpoint to Bobby's. And their fans are always talking about how they'd like to see a spinoff with Bobby and Rufus. And I think a spinoff with Bobby and Sheriff Mills would be just as intriguing for the same reasons. I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, with Bobby and Rufus, it's grumpy old men chasing demons. But with Sheriff Mills, it's generational as well. I just really loved every time they brought her and Bobby together.
Yeah.
Of course, later on they brought Bobby and Sheriff Mills even closer together for a minute, and I thought something interesting was going to happen there, but that
spoiler alert.
Yeah.
All right.
But that'll come up in a different
Fast
episode.
forward.
Let me light this candle. Yeah, that's I did not know that. Okay, we'll find out down the road, won't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, she just kills it. I love her, the sassiness and I like that first scene in the diner.
Oh yeah.
Where she kind of gives the boys the sass, and then she calls you, and you get busted on your scam.
I'm trying to remember if that was the first time we saw that Bobby had multiple phone lines.
No, we've seen you have. I think we've seen it before because there's another episode. I was thinking this as I watched it, but I feel like it might have been a cell phone you pick up. But you act like their boss in a different episode,
right?
Where you go, God damn it, do what I say or else, it's really like, oh gosh.
It's the episode where they're actually with an actual CIA guy, or you think they are, or an actual FBI guy. So you made a 3-minute behind the scenes short film about the episode. It's on YouTube, and we're going to post it to Twitter. And I watched it. It's really terrific. I just knowing all of you now, it's fun to see everyone as they're 15 years ago as their younger self, So, young Jensen Ackles and young Kim Rhodes.
Yeah.
Anyway, how did that come about? It says it's on a flip camera.
That made me laugh too. It was a flip camera, which I was trying to remember the name of flip cameras recently. I was telling somebody like, the white camera that was up and down and could not remember.
There was, I think there was somebody from publicity that approached me, I think maybe that very morning, and said, here, take the fans on a tour of Bobby's house.
Oh.
And they just gave it to me and said, go
so they
shoot
gave
something.
did they give you the camera?
Man.
And I don't remember getting a lot of instruction. I just wandered about and tried to be, your roving reporter. And
right. Well, you sure roved. You know what I mean? Like that, if that was the goal.
Well, I haven't seen that thing in a long time.
It's interesting. You should watch it. It's fun just to see you all sort of young and.
You're really hung up on this young thing, aren't you?
I am.
One of the things I thought was interesting about it is just, and people will find interesting who watch it now, is that it wasn't common to have a digital tour of a set of anything because nobody had smartphones. What we take for granted, what young people now take for granted, is that's just a given. It was not a given. So that peek behind the scenes in digital format, not even like the big camera crew coming back there, but just an actor with a camera in that simple format never happened.
That was
completely
that was quite new.
Unique.
And
it
was one thing I liked about it was because to me it answered for all time the question I get a lot of times from fans, which is, was it spooky on the set? And I think it's fairly obvious from that it's very well lit on the set, and there are not hidden creatures in the shadows except for, Harvey and some of the guys with their butt cracks showing while they hammer sets together. There's nothing terribly terrifying in the supernatural sense, being on a supernatural set.
Yeah, no. Like you said, except for some of the crew members. But it was fun to see the crew, actually, and Johnny Mac, rest his soul.
Oh, man. It hurts your heart to see that guy. He was a good one.
Yeah, that was really, really cool. I didn't recognize I don't know, I guess that was like the second at the end of it who tells you it's the end of the day Friday and it's time to go home and last shot of the day. I didn't recognize that.
It wasn't Gabe, was it?
Is that Adrian?
Was it Gabe Correa?
It wasn't Gabe, no.
It's Adrian, isn't it?
Oh, it might have been Adrian, yeah. Like I said, I haven't seen it in years, but...
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's good. That's interesting to know that they handed it to you and said, hey, go, because I thought, this must have been something that Jim does.
I thought the same thing. I thought Jim is just like, you'd gotten a new toy and we're going to, show it off.
It wasn't even my phone.
It wasn't a phone. It was a flip camera.
Yeah, they just said, go shoot backstage.
Yeah. And
That's
it's funny
awesome.
what a ham Jensen is, He like comes right up to the camera with a shotgun. He's like, hey, I'd like to thank the Academy. Like, he's very like,
and again, that only happens before cell phones, because if you round the corner with your smartphone, everybody's used to that. So nobody reacts like, hey, there's a camera going.
Right. That's right.
We were saying this is like one of the bloodier episodes that I think I saw.
Really
One of the gorier episodes I've seen.
I was taken with the fact looking at it yesterday that there's one moment where there's blood splattered on the lens.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
And I thought, now did that really happen, or did they?
It's got to be digital.
Wait, which one are we talking about?
The one you were talking about, Richard, the splatter on the lens.
That had to be added, because if it's too far away from the lens, unless it landed on the safety
that's what
that would have been on the camera. But it's in focus, so it makes me think if it's in focus, it has to be digital.
Yeah, you're probably right. Well, I was there. I should probably know.
Yeah, why the hell are you asking us? I know 3 out of the 4 people in this interview were not there.
There's a great line that you have when you guys are in the closet and they're trying to pick the lock, and he's like, they're dumb. They can't pick the lock, and then they start to pick the lock, and you're like,
don't you ever get tired of being wrong?
Wrong.
Yeah, it is so funny. And also, could they have found a smaller closet? Good Lord.
Well, the funny thing is that that may have been, I vaguely recall that I brought up to them the fact that in the first couple of seasons, that closet wasn't there. That hallway went straight back into part of Bobby's house that was accessible from another place. And suddenly there's this closet there that we're going to hide in. And I was saying to whoever, Johnny Mac maybe, that, wait a minute, Bobby added a closet? But, that's movie magic.
Yeah.
I actually love that kind of thing when you're somewhere and you're like, hey, I'm supposed to turn the lights on, but there's no light switch on this wall. And like 2 seconds later, a guy with a drill's like,
Yeah.
now there is.
So,
Maybe Karen put it in.
yeah, I think if viewers look closely at Bobby's house over the years, they will see certain changes. Certainly the house that you first see in season 1 and 2 is the kitchen in particular is quite different from later. They expanded just to give some room because they realized, I guess, they were going to be there fairly often.
Yeah. Well, this kitchen with all of her pies, it seemed pretty big.
By that point, they had expanded it, but the closet, I think, maybe was new. It was a fairly small closet until we had to shoot inside it, and then I believe they expanded it even further just to give us room in there.
Sure.
So,
Wow.
Get both you dudes and a camera in there. Yeah, for sure.
And certainly your house was unrecognizable in this episode because it was clean.
yeah, there's that.
So.
Well, Bobby's clean. Like
And you're
nothing
clean.
like a woman around.
Well,
Yeah. And
Clean up
happy.
guy.
I love the fact that the next time you see the house, it's back to being filthy with cobwebs and dust.
Yeah. It didn't
Doesn't
take long.
take Bobby
No.
long to screw up a house.
I don't think it
That's
takes
funny.
any of us long to scrape a house. Well, Jim, dude, it's so awesome to have you here. And honestly, I knew we were in for a great interview with you because we always are, but this went in a direction I didn't anticipate. And I just think it's a beautiful testament to your acting skill that you can take your real experiences and bring them to bear in some really cool scene work. And
Thank you for your candor and your performance in this episode is top notch.
Well,
It's
thank
really
you.
it's almost above and beyond the CW, and so it makes sense. It meant a lot to you because it means a lot to watch it.
you see it on screen. For
Well,
sure.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. I appreciate that. It was it remains one of my favorite episodes.
I can see why. Yeah,
And not just because I get a lot of camera time, but because it hits some emotional levels that only a handful of the episodes do. And it does so with a character that happens to be played by me, but it's a lot of the deep emotions we see on this show are those of Sam and Dean's. And I just as an appreciator of art, which I consider this to be, it's nice to see another character going through some of the same emotional levels. And I was happy. I was happy and very proud to get to play it.
That's awesome. And well, you should be.
thank you so much.
Jim Beaver, thank you, my friend.
Thank you, guys.
Until
Back
next
in-
time, because we'll do
Yeah.
this again.
Hey, this is Jeffrey Dean Morgan. We are going to take a quick break. Hey, it's Jeffrey Dean Morgan again. Welcome back to the podcast.
Well, that was just great.
It was more than great, man. I
You're
mean,
right. I'm wrong. It was more than
No, I'm not correcting you. I'm just saying that was just a really cool. We tapped into a conversation I wasn't sure we were going to tap into, and it was really lovely of Jim to share his personal journey with us.
Absolutely. And I also have to say that just the vision of him rocking in that chair was so amazing. He was in a rocking chair.
Oh, yeah, during our interview, yeah, people who don't see the clip will not know. If you're not a Patreon subscriber, you won't have seen any visuals. But Jim was just sitting there in a rocking chair, just
being Jim.
rocking away.
Yeah, that was great. Well, we'll have him back. But we have got a lot of mythology to get to. So let's go into the section we like to call Mythology. Okay, so the concept of zombies has evolved significantly over time, appearing in various forms across folklore, literature, film, and video games. Here are 7 of our favorite different types of zombies. And when I say our favorite, we're reading this for the first time. So we'll see.
So number 1, traditional voodoo magic zombies.
Yeah.
These zombies are the kind that show up at your birthday party. They are reanimated corpses or living people put under a spell controlled by a sorcerer or bokor. They have no will of their own and perform tasks as commanded. Mow my grass. Yes.
Mowing grass.
They have their origin in Haitian folklore and voodoo religion.
Wow, so this kind of OG zombies, which we
Yeah.
don't see so much in the movies.
No, because I would have, if I had, look, a zombie helper
That's
sounds like
pretty
a
amazing.
dope
Yeah.
category of zombie. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be nice to have to have the sort of 1950s frazzled mom. If I just had a zombie,
Right.
And then like, here comes the glitter. What'd you say, Mom?
Yeah. And there can be living people. So I could get someone to put you under a spell.
Must, shave, Rob's, ass crack.
Number 2 on the list we've never seen of our favorite zombies, flesh-eating zombies, also called Romero zombies.
After George Romero,
Yes,
I assume.
reanimated corpses that hunger for human flesh, often spreading the infection through bites. They're usually slow-moving and relentless, popularized by George Romero's 1968 film Night of the Living Dead.
Then, of course, there's old number 3, viral/infected zombies. Humans infected by a virus, transforming them into rabid, aggressive creatures. They can be fast or slow, depending on the specific lore, like in 28 Days Later or Resident Evil. Those fast-moving zombies are the creepy ones. I mean, nobody likes the brains zombies because they're just going to keep moving and nothing's going to stop them. But they're slow. It's the fast ones that move like they're on PCP that really freak you out.
Most of the ones we see are also very dumb. I mean, Dean is right in this episode. They're characterized as being pretty dumb, but I don't know. Sometimes they can be smart.
You're going to offend a lot of zombies with that comment. I'll back away from that one.
All right, number 4 on our list, parasite-controlled zombies. This is Richard's favorite kind. Creatures controlled by a parasite or fungus exhibiting zombie-like behavior as the parasite takes over their nervous system, like those in The Last of Us, and real-world examples like Orpheochrysiphides unilaterus in ants.
What the hell?
Oreocordyceps unilateralis. Ophiocordyceps
Unilateralis. I think you did a pretty good job with that, Rob. You know, and I am certainly not Greek and fluent in Latin, but you know, you did pretty well.
Yeah.
I like the idea that your mushroom can be ordering a zombie around.
Yeah, well,
tiny little cartoon mushroom.
Well, if you
go kill those carrots, or whatever,
exactly.
Whoever the mushroom's enemy is,
spinach.
Old number 5, technological cyber zombies. Humans or corpses reanimated or controlled through technology, such as screenagers. Am I right? Also, implants or nanobots. They might retain some cognitive functions or be entirely mechanical in their actions, like teens. Who's with me? Woo!
Or nanobots. I mean, the way you said nanobots just now was like you in like a movie of the week about cyber zombies, and they're like, "Sir, they're nanobots." Nanobots.
I'm the crusty old army sergeant. Nanobots.
Number 6 on our.
Here's what I know. I know that they don't got weapons that we do.
Exactly.
So you
call them whatever you want.
Just watch me.
Kill 'em.
Chick.
Number 6 on our well-crafted list, alien or extraterrestrial zombies. Humans transformed into zombies by extraterrestrial entities or infections. These zombies often have alien-like features or abilities. Examples include the townspeople in Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Oh, yeah, that's a creepy one. Speaking of, turns out the star of the remake from the 70s of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Donald Sutherland, has passed away at the age of 88. Really? Yeah, that announcement dropped on my screen as we were sitting there talking to...
That'll date this episode and maybe realization really who is the screenager in this group.
Shut up, Dad! Maybe you're a nerd.
Wow, well, sad news. And that leads us to our final type of zombie.
Our final category of zombie. Quantum dimensional zombies. Quantum/dimensional zombies, entities from alternate dimensions or affected by quantum anomalies, resulting in zombie-like behavior. They often defy conventional physical laws. These sound like zombie nerds.
Oh, zombie nerds, okay.
These sound like dorky zombie nerds who use words like anomalies and quantum. And nobody likes these zombies. These are the zombies you cheat off their zombie paper if you're in zombie school with them, and you get a pop zombie quiz.
100%.
But, interestingly... sometimes these zombie nerds are the ones that help the zombie jocks get the zombie girl. And then later, the zombie girl realizes, I fell in love not with the zombie jock. I've been in love with this zombie nerd the whole time.
And you know what? You could make fun of the quantum zombie, but at the end of the day, you might be working for that quantum zombie someday.
I hope the zombie jocks are listening. I hope the zombie jocks, those fat cats in their zombie sports cars, because their zombie daddies are rich, are listening. Because you might just be mopping the floor for the quantum anomaly zombies. You know what I'm saying?
Each type of zombie comes with its own set of lore, rules, and characteristics, providing a rich and diverse landscape for storytelling and exploration in various media.
I was kind of hoping you would drop the article there and just read, providing rich with a diverse landscape for storytelling and exploration in various media. Just for me.
Comedy gold.
All right, well, speaking of comedy gold, let's move into our next segment called Fun Facts. Fun Facts!
Before we get into it, we were told to remind you that you have a fun fact.
Yes, I have a fun fact. Should I dive right into my fun
Please.
fact? The gentleman who plays Jody Mills' husband is Chris Bradford.
Okay.
Who was a driver on the show for its entire run, worked on the show and he worked in various departments on the show, but you will know him best, Rob, because his dad was the legendary driver Ted.
Oh.
Remember Ted Bradford?
That's Chris?
Guy who drove all the actors? That's Chris.
No way.
Yeah, that's Chris. That's Ted Bradford's son. Ted was like the nicest man on the planet.
Okay. Whoa. That's crazy. Yeah, of course, I know Ted and Chris. Well.
Yeah, I'm just for audience folk. Ted used to drive Jared and Jensen around when the show started, and then he became the actor driver.
Yeah, he was like
once Cliff took over the Jared and Jensen driving, and literally the sweetest man of all time.
Sweetest man.
I used to love being in his car just to hear him tell stories. He worked in the industry forever. He knew everybody. He was great friends with Kim Manners for one, and had great stories. But he was just a wonderful human being. And Chris is an equally wonderful human being. Is his son, and was on the show for, I think it's run, but if not, certainly was in the transportation department and driving.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, Chris is a great looking guy too, so it makes sense why he does have.
Yeah, I know. I was always like,
actor
wow,
good looks.
Chris is a very leading man and charming and just a great guy. So the Bradford family represented in this episode.
Wow, that's great.
I thought that was really neat.
Well, what's funny is that, the way it is on a set, like I always just know them as like Driver Chris or, Driver Ted. I never knew that Bradford was their last name. That's great. That's fantastic. Well, the episode title gets its name from the 1982 movie Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, starring Steve Martin. But Richard, do you know what the link is? Why?
I can only assume because people are dead. I don't know.
Right. Because Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, it's not a zombie movie. It's more of a noir send-up or something.
Yeah, and also speaks to the fact that I thought this episode wrestled with comedy versus drama sometimes. Well, you name your episode after a Steve Martin movie.
Sure. Yeah.
You're already in the comedy lane, whether you like it or not.
All right, well, that's interesting. So the agent names, the brothers Hughes. Don't look, Rich, and see if you can guess.
I already knew. When I heard it, I knew.
Nope. No, you don't. Agent names the brothers Hughes in this episode are Dorfman and Niedermeyer. Rich?
From Animal House.
That's right. Kent Dorfman and Doug Niedermeyer are both main characters in the National Lampoon's Animal House.
Sheriff Mills was Jim Beaver's character name on a 2009 CBS TV series, Harper's Island.
No way.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Is that on purpose, or I wonder?
I don't know. Let's ask Harper. Harper?
Mills?
Nobody's answering. I guess not.
The old lady zombie that Sam confronts had pureed banana in her mouth as mucus that drips onto Sam's face.
Oh, God, that's so gross. Oh, now we know it wasn't coming out of the woman's mouth when it hit his cheek, but it's still revolting.
So gross.
The drawing of death in the book Bobby reads from is an etching from 1784 in a book by Joseph Haynes called The Death on a Pale Horse.
It's a little on the nose, the name of the picture.
Doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room.
It's like me drawing a picture of you on a bike, and I call it Rich on a bike. Well,
where'd you come up with that name?
Look, it was an eventful episode.
It's been eventful.
It was funny. It had tears, just like this podcast.
Best part of this episode, Jim Beaver interview, hands down.
Just like this podcast. There were laughs. There were some serious moments. It was a complete podcast.
And then Rob ruined it with some dirty jokes, just like this podcast.
Nope. That wasn't me. That was Richard. And you won't hear it because it was too dirty for broadcast. But anyway, it was a great episode and great to have Jim on. All right, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode. This episode of Supernatural features Jared Padalecki as Sam Winchester and Jensen Ackles as Dean Winchester.
Guest stars include Jim Beaver, Kim Rhodes, Carrie Ann Fleming, Troy Ruptash, Ben Geldrich, and Scott McNeil.
Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid was written by Jeremy Carver, directed by John F. Showalter.
Editing by Tom McQuaid, music by Jay Greska.
Executive produced by Eric Kripke and Robert Singer.
The original broadcast of this episode featured the following song, Lovin' the Sin I'm In by Terry Campbell.
This episode originally aired on March 25th, 2010.
This episode of Supernatural Then and Now was hosted and executive produced by Richard Speight Jr. and Rob Benedict.
Produced by Stephen Hine, written by Stephen Hine and Haida Holscher, and edited and associate produced by Trey Booty.
What's up, Booty?
Music provided by Tim Wynn.
This episode was recorded with the help of Sonic Fuel Studios.
This podcast is from Story Mill Media.
Follow the podcast on Instagram and TikTok at SPN Then and Now.
Become a member of the podcast at www.patreon.com/SPN Then and Now.
Okay.
Don't fix... Steve, stop it. You're not allowed to fix your typos. Or I'm going to go back to the
Luckily, I'm over here on the original document, so I got typos aplenty.
Okay, you have to,
not messing
you
with
have
my
to let me
document,
know, because
Steve.
we're trying a new thing, everybody, where Steve can edit on the fly, and it really takes out the fun right out of it.
So if you remember the movie, Steve Martin, he's acting with all dead actors. So because he acts against clips from past movies. I mean, that's my guess. That's what I took from it. Or you could read into it that all the living characters are wearing plaid because they always wear flannels. So Jared, like if you look at it, Sam and Bobby are both wearing plaid. I don't remember if Dean is or not, but I don't know. Maybe that's just me geeking out.
Story Mill Media.
Contained herein are the heresies of Radolf Burntwine, erstwhile monk turned traveling medical investigator. Join me as I uncover the blasphemous truth of a plague-ridden world, that ours is not a loving God, and we are not its favored children. The heresies of Radolf Burntwine, coming January 2nd, wherever podcasts are available.